Welcome to Judica County. I'm your host, Cassandra Nicholas, and I'm here with attorneys Taylor Scruggs-Smith and Kimberly Lott. We're all attorneys at Whitaker & Hamer, your law firm for life with offices across the state of North Carolina. Today, we're going to not just touch on, but do a little bit of a deep dive regarding alimony. Family law is not an area I practice at all, so I'm going to start with what is alimony?
Alimony is where one spouse pays another spouse to help support them.
Simple enough. I imagine that it is more complicated in practice. What's the process for getting alimony?
Sure. First of all, you have to determine whether somebody's eligible for alimony. And the way the state of North Carolina determines that, they have to determine that one spouse was a supporting spouse, that they paid most of the bills, supported the other spouse, and that the other spouse was the dependent spouse, and that spouse depended on the other for their lifestyle and maintaining their living conditions. So once that's been determined, then you have to show that what is the need for the alimony. And North Carolina, the way they phrase it is, you are entitled to the lifestyle to which you became accustomed. So I always tell clients it's very different if you are married to a professional football player who's making millions and millions of dollars versus if you're married to somebody who's making, let's say, $100,000 a year. So the courts look at how much you've been accustomed to spending and how much you actually need in order to maintain that lifestyle.
So I know in North Carolina that you need to be separated for at least 365 days before filing divorce. So if someone is now having to support themselves for the first time during that year, how do they go about showing that their new lifestyle is lower than whatever they had been previously accustomed to?
So one thing that happens is you can fill out a financial affidavit, and some people will file pretty relatively early in the separation just to say, like, I need this money in order to even get a new place. So there is another thing tied into alimony called post-separation support, and that is money that is given to what we call the dependent spouse during that year of separation. And then it's later determined whether or not there's going to be a long-term alimony. So post-separation support typically ends once alimony is determined, but it's money in the interim to help as you're starting to live on your own with these expenses.
So that can be either just agreed on as an amount during the separation, or it can also be ordered?
Yes. So post-separation support is a filing you can do, and most people do it in connection with alimony because they're so tied into each other. But it can be done through a separation agreement or through filing with the court.
And a lot of people, I've had a lot of clients who, even before they're contemplating separating, and one is a dependent spouse who absolutely can't move out and get their own place without help from the other spouse. So you can negotiate a separation agreement before they even separate so that the person who needs the support can have money for a place to live.
Is there anything else that clients typically need to know regarding alimony?
There is. Alimony can be barred. So one of the big things about alimony is that the courts are very big on marital misconduct, such as affairs. And how the court explains it and how the statute reads it is that if the supporting spouse had an affair, the court shall award alimony. And I put emphasis on the word shall because it's ordering the court to give alimony if they can meet the standards of the legal requirements Kim went over earlier. So that's a really big thing because if you had an affair, the court has to award alimony if it's already determined they're a dependent spouse.
If it's the supporting spouse that had the affair. And what if it was the dependent spouse?
If it's a dependent spouse, then they are barred from alimony. If you as a dependent spouse had an affair on the supporting spouse does not have to pay you alimony. That is in the statute.
No matter how dependent you are, if you're unable to afford to live on your own.
Yeah. No.
That is some
And then
wisdom.
And the funny thing is, if it turns out both of you had an affair, it's in the court's discretion, which means what we always tell people when it comes to court discretion is it matters who the judge believes, and it can go either way. You never know what a judge is going to do until a judge says it.
That's the truth. This was incredibly helpful. I definitely learned more about alimony, and hopefully everyone else did too. We thank you for joining us on this episode of Judica County. If you find yourself in need of legal assistance with negotiating alimony, for instance, or anything else, please give us a call at 919-772-7000 or contact us on our website at wh.lawyer. We're Whitaker and Hamer, your law firm for life.